Well, good evening, world, and welcome to the Changing Consciousness show, which is coming live tonight from Gemerschein, Germany, with me, Brian Branche.
And me, Ruth.
This evening, we will be looking at various aspects of conflict, compromise, and solutions. And it seems to me that this is what we all face in life's journey. No matter what we do, we always have to make choices. Some are easy, some are not so, as we grow from birth till we die.
As usual, Brian carries out interviews with people he meets on the streets, in their homes, places of business, or wherever he happens to encounter them. This evening, you will hear from 4 people Brian met recently. The first one is Lioba, a young woman who is taking her master's degree, whom Brian met on the plane flying from Manchester to Hahn in Germany, and the interview took place after their flight landed and after going through customs, and they both had time on their hands, so they had a cup of coffee in the cafeteria of Hahn Airport. The next one is Philip Kritzer, a young student at Constance University, that's on Lake Constance in Germany. And there will be an interview with a man called Dirk Kairat, a German, as you can see by his name, who opened up a wine shop called Vino Castel, Wine Castle, in Gemerschein. He did that about 2 years ago. And finally, an Indian man called Yasubanta, who owns and runs a hotel in Austria, where we were earlier this year. Enough talk, let's get to our first piece of music, and we'd like to start with a German song. It is called Über den Wolken, Above the Clouds. It talks about the promise of boundless freedom when you fly in an airplane, and about that longing for that feeling. Here's a rough translation of the refrain. Above the clouds, surely, freedom must be boundless. All fears, all sorrows remain below the clouds as you lift above them, and everything that seems large and important becomes trivial and insignificant.
Well, it seems that from the time we become self-aware, one of the ways we learn and develop consciousness is by asking the question, why?
Well, children are famous for their why, mummy, at a certain age, after they've learned to talk, and when they explore the world. They're just naturally curious and want to know about things like, why doesn't the star or the sun or the stars not fall down? And lots of other things parents usually can't answer. And some people appear to retain their natural curiosity. They carry it forward into their adult lives, and they become scientists, researchers, psychologists, theologists, even philosophers, because they want to know what makes the world go round, what makes people tick. But not just out of sheer curiosity, I assume. They want to know because they have a need to know.
Yes, it seems to be part of our nature that we need to find out how things work, how and why, what is right, what is wrong, who am I, why am I here, and what makes me different from others. We always seem to be looking for solutions to help us feel good about life and about being me in relationship to others, the world, and our environment. In order to become our own person, we have to go through various developments in our body, mind, and our soul, and that does not just happen overnight.
is that certainly doesn't, and we all are shaped by events. As a rock face is shaped by wind, rains, sunshine, and all creatures who rumble and rummage above and below its surface. Likewise, we are too shaped by nature and nurture, both from within and from without ourselves. Just think of a few: culture, faith, beliefs, ideologies, education, family tradition, nationalism. These are all players in helping to shape and develop our character.
Yeah, and no matter how intellectual or whatever we are, emotionally, we are shaped by our feelings, and this plays one big role in all the decisions we make. Depends on how we are valued, whether we feel loved or rejected by others. And we may develop, through all these kind of procedures, a low self-image, maybe wanting to look like someone else other than who we are, and behave differently. Perhaps like someone who's looked up to into the world as a celebrity, someone who is clever, rich. As an individual, we are unique. There is no one else like us, even if we crap it up. But when we live within a family, community, or nation, we also have to be conscious of each other's needs.
Crap it up, Brian. Well put. I certainly have my very own personal style of crapping things up. But back to some more serious stuff. When we live beside other people, that can only work if we have mutual respect and understanding. And we also have to live with systems and structures because they allow us to operate in harmony. And since we are not machines, we are brought up with ideologies, religious or political rituals, dreams, worship, and celebration. And now, Brian will introduce part 1 of his interview with Lioba, that's a very German name, who is at university studying peace and conflict. And this, I believe, is about compromise versus solution.
Lioba, I've noticed you were reading something there about communication.
Yeah, I read a book by Paul Václavic. More or less, it's a gathering of different theories he wrote throughout his life, and it's about how people communicate and how often miscommunication leads to conflict.
Okay. And are you studying to be a communicator?
No, I'm studying peace and conflict studies. So I'm studying pretty much everything that has to do with conflict or also with peace, with the idea of like how can gain to have a peaceful relationship, a peaceful society. Communication is a big factor in it.
Okay, have you got an idea? How do we do that?
How to get a peaceful society? I think that when people learn I think conflicts are important in a way, but there's two different kinds of conflict. So you can have positive conflict, constructive conflict, or deconstructive conflict. And I think people should learn to turn into a conflict in a constructive one.
Give me a positive idea of a positive conflict.
If we have a disagreement on something, we could just fight over it and try to each fight for our own position and fight over being in the right. Or we could try to understand each other and try to understand each other's needs behind maybe what we want. And there's a famous example: if you have an orange.
We've also got somebody else in conflict here, but we'll keep that. Carry on.
Okay, so you have an orange, and there are two people fighting over the orange. Everybody wants the orange. There's only one there, and so you can just fight over the orange, and after a while decide, okay, let's half. You get 50, I get 50%, but nobody's happy with it because everybody wanted the orange. Or you can then, but if the people then start talking for what they need the orange, they might discover that one just needs the orange peel for making a cake, and the other one actually wants to eat the orange. So you can find a solution that suits everyone. But that works just by communicating and respecting each other's needs.
Are you talking about compromise?
It's a compromise. Yeah, the one thing is a compromise, and the other one is a solution, where nobody has to.
Okay, so the compromise is maybe when somebody actually loses out. So
I think a compromise always, in a compromise, everybody always loses in a way.
And you're saying in a solution,
everybody gains.
Well, I think most of us sort of go for compromise. Solution takes a lot more working, I think, because we have to listen, we have to talk. Anything to say, Ruth?
Absolutely. That sounds easy, and I think she picked a very nice example of the orange, but of course a simple example. The point, however, being, as Brian said, that you need to talk about what you really want. But in order to talk about what you really want, you have to know first what you really want. And that may be the difficult part sometimes, if it's not a small thing like an orange or another small object. So that takes awareness. It's funny how we always come back to awareness, isn't it?
Poor old Leova, because when I got onto the flight from Manchester to Hahn Airport, Leova came and sat next to me, and we started chatting. It's only when I saw her reading the book. And then when we landed at Hahn, we had an hour to spare before I had somebody to pick me up, and Leova had to catch a bus. And I usually say, okay, well, I've got my recorder on me. You seem an interesting character, so let's see what you have to say on conflict and compromise and solutions. So I put her on the spot, and yeah, she was great. I think if most of us actually do some listening to others, maybe we conflict will still come across our way, but rather than keep either complaining, we need to also use the tactic of patience and listening.
And incidentally, the book she was reading was a book by a fairly famous American psychologist called Co-presnted. I believe he's not originally American, or maybe second generation. And I'll put that in the chat box for you if you're interested. He's written a number of books. One of them deals with the subject, How to Make Yourself Miserable. That's not the right title, but basically it's a very humorous way of approaching the way in which people make life difficult for themselves. And the one she was reading, I believe, is called How Real is Reality. That's a little heavier and not so humorous, but certainly worth reading. But now I think it's indeed time for some music, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to hear the rendering of A Night Like This by a singer called Caro Emerald.
Have you ever dreamed a night like that? Well, you may find in the recordings that there's a certain amount of background noise. Well, I've kept that in because that's to show that those recordings are just normal people I meet in the street. And if they wish to give a point of view or get into a kind of debate, then I record them. And that's what we've done here. And so you may have to just put up with that. We're going to listen to another parts of the conversation that I had with Lioba. Do you want to say anything else before I go on?
No, that's okay. You just carry on.
Okay. We're going to listen to part 2 now.
There's another one you can say two people fighting over a parking spot.
Okay.
There's one person, so they fight over each wants to get in. So the solution could be just the faster one gets in, parking spot leaves. So one is the winner, and then one is the loser. But then if they talk, they might find out that one person only needs the parking spot for 5 minutes because she wants just to run into the shop and buy some cucumbers or so. And if they start communicating, it would be a solution. One takes the parking spot for just 5 minutes and the other one takes it afterwards because she wants to stay there overnight. Also something that happened.
Okay, this is good if both people then have a certain level of understanding.
Yeah.
Supposing one's not educated in the sense of a Western education, that he is a wild person. Not to say he's a silly person, but he hasn't got the language to communicate.
He doesn't speak the same language as I am.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he will speak some language. And that's where it gets tricky because there is a lot of, that's where we talk about the communication process, that's miscommunication. I think still if you can signal someone that you're actually interested in understanding their position as well, and I think that's the first step of finding a solution. And I think that's something that's pretty transnational. So you can approach somebody in an aggressive way and it's my right, I will do it my way. Or you can approach somebody who's like, okay, I don't understand you, but I want to understand you. I want to understand where you're coming from. And I think that's a start. And from there you have to try to develop a communication, a way of communicating.
Supposing now I don't speak Deutsch. I have just pushed in here. How would you handle it?
How would I handle you? If you just sat down next to me and I wouldn't have known you and you wouldn't speak the same language, I think I would probably try to read your body language. If you have a really aggressive approach, I will probably just withdraw myself because I'm not up for a fight right now and I don't need to prove myself and there's enough space around. If you just be lost, for example, then I would try to help. I'd try to figure out what the problem is. I don't know, with hand-keys, you can draw pictures. I had once a really interesting conversation with a French guy. I don't speak any French. We just drew pictures and used hand signals and stuff. It was quite interesting.
Well, it just shows you that if we take more time to spend more time actually listening to one another, we can read body language, we can listen to what people are saying, and even if we do not understand the language, we can communicate through drawing, little pictures and things like that. Now, I'm sure if our politicians also took note of that, and everyone who engaged in looking at how others think or work or making protests could say, let's just get around a table. Yeah, life might be slower, but might be easier.
In the long run, certainly, yes, I agree. Happily, sometimes in history, there have been times when people took time to talk to one another and thought about what turned out to be a peaceful revolution. I'm thinking of the time when the wall came down, and there were the Monday demonstrations in Leipzig, which happily were all non-violent. But before those demonstrations happened, there must have been a lot of talk, amongst people. Unhappily, there wasn't a lot of talk between people and the politicians, but still, it was peaceful. Now we're going to have some music, which is also peaceful. It is indeed by Claude Debussy, and it's called reverie, the dreaming.
Well, I hope that has put you in a nice, restful mood, because it is Friday night and we're coming up to the weekend. Yesterday was All Saints Day, and because Germany is still kind of Roman Catholic country, everybody had a day off. No, I'll have to pass you back to Ruth because her finger's wagging at me. But anyway, around here, people had the day off. And today, of course, is All Souls Day. And the music is going to be restful because we're coming up for the weekend. And we hope everyone is kind of chilling out.
Yes, slight correction there. Germany is basically split into half. The southern half tends to be predominantly Catholic, and the northern half tends to be predominantly Protestant. And that was because after Reformation, the kingdoms and dukedoms that we had before there was a Germany all had their religious allegiances, which in the end turned out to be political allegiances, of course. And the Catholic influence was a lot stronger in the south, and the Protestant influence was a lot stronger in the north. So it's still a sort of a 50-50 split. Having said that, of course, both religions are moving out today. But when it comes to public holidays, yes, All Saints is still a public holiday here, and lots of people have taken the chance to take Friday off from work and made that into a long weekend, which they must be enjoying now.
Okay, we're coming up to the last bit of the interview I had with Lioba, and this is about 6 minutes long, this particular piece. So it's also time you can stretch your legs if you want to. And if you have just joined us, you're listening to the Changing Consciousness show on www.criticalmassradio.co.uk with myself, Brian Branche, and Ruth, who's co-presenting and has helped to choose a lot of the music, because Ruth likes classic, pop as well, but it's nice to have some instrumentals and some orchestral pieces as well in our listening. So here is Lioba at Hahn Airport with her last comments, and we were enjoying a cup of coffee, so again there was some background noise in this.
So you are now a professional negotiator, and you have to try and bring some order into the financial situation in Europe, where we have to try and have this balance between austerity and spend. How would you negotiate?
I don't think it is possible to negotiate with the system in itself. So you have to have the people behind it. And there it becomes complex, because I don't think the financial system is just made up of one person. It's a construct of many, many people acting on different levels in different ways.
And as we said before, you don't have to answer if it's uncomfortable. How do you negotiate with yourself in coming to terms with you as a person?
How do I negotiate with myself? I use people around me for that. I talk. I think that I don't know if it is. I would say with myself, I'm not able to negotiate completely on my own with myself, because I'm just part of a system pretty much. So I interact with people around me.
Yeah, it's a good answer, that, I think, because we do need others to act as a mirror for us.
Yeah.
You seem to have a fair amount of common sense. Let's call that wisdom instead of common sense. How do you think we gain wisdom?
How do we gain wisdom? I think it's probably based a lot on experience. Just my personal view, I would say it's a lot experience on the way we are brought up, our experience with others. And I think that creates wisdom a lot. And then, yeah, I think that's what I would say. I wouldn't say it comes from books. It's not something you can read about, or I mean, you can study as much as you want, but then you only know facts. But to learn to use the information you read about, that takes something else, it needs something else. And I think that's something we gain in experience, in interaction with others.
Okay, I think that's another good point. So when we look at leadership, national leadership, is there a way we should be looking at how we choose leaders rather than their academic abilities?
Yeah, but I think it's not the academic abilities are not the reason why leaders get chosen. I don't think it is that way at the moment. I mean, it is partially. There's like a certain level of education that is demanded of a leader. So I would say they all need to have a college degree or university degree. But a lot is also there, how eloquent they are, what they promise. I think it's a lot based on how eloquent they are.
You were leading Europe. What would your take be?
My take? I wouldn't want to lead Europe. I don't really understand your question. My take on what?
If you were in the position of leadership and you were elected, how would you govern your people?
I think it's a tough one because for one thing, I wouldn't want to be like the leader of Europe. Okay? I think it's a lot of responsibility, and I think the problem you're facing, you want to make it to be good. You want to make everyone happy in a way, but you can't do that. And they're just like it's systems at work. You can't do anything against as a single person. I mean, you can try to be a respectful person, try to respect the people around you, but you won't be able to change the whole system from one day to the next just because you're the leader. I think we always think because somebody is the leader, he has the power to decide everything. That's not the way it is. Every single person contributes to pretty much the world around them, and we give some responsibility to leaders, and they might be able to take certain decisions, but if nobody is following, then it doesn't help.
Am I understanding you by then saying that we actually have to take responsibility ourselves?
Yeah. And I think that probably would be my first take, is to try to be honest to myself and not lose myself in having all the power, because I think it's quite flattering to be suddenly a leader of a country and everybody tries to be nice to you, and I think it's important to not lose yourself in that, but to keep being honest to yourself and try to still have understanding what's really important in life.
Well, that was the last of the session which I had with Lioba. A very young-minded woman, but with an old kind of wisdom head on her shoulders. And I think she came up with some really good things there. For me, one of the things is that I always kind of batten this place is that we all have to take responsibility I don't suppose there are any leaders listening to this program, but if they are, then what they need to realize is that they are our servants. We elect leaders to do the work for us. But at the same time, as Louisa said there, is that if politicians could bring all the laws out, but if we don't follow that, nothing changes. So if we want to change the world, we start with changing ourselves and changing the person beside us, but we don't do that by either threatening them, pointing the finger at them, but we actually have to engage in conversation, get to know one another. Any comments, Ruth?
Well, I couldn't agree more, of course. But it does take time and effort, and it takes persistence and patience and the will to start afresh every day. This is not new. It's been said before. And it's also easy to say when you talk about people in politics, well, unless they're very lazy backbenchers, they do have a very full schedule. And it must be difficult, if you're in the throes of this kind of life, to remind yourself of what is really important, because you can get so engulfed by the political day-to-day business that I'm sure it's difficult to really be aware of what your feelings are. Are you doing this because you want to be famous, because you are greedy, because you really want to do something for the common good? I wonder how I would feel if I was there.
I wonder if anyone is listening here. What would you do if you were a leader? Because it's easy for us to criticize leadership, but supposing leadership was thrown into our court, I wonder how we would actually cope. I don't think I would like it. You're going to introduce some music, Ruth?
Yes, I already have on Chatbox. It's what I believe is quite a cheerful piece, and I suggest you just listen to it.
CMR Critical Mass Radio in association with We Are Change Manchester and Freedom Northwest. Please note the views and opinions expressed by the hosts on this show are not necessarily the views held by the station. CMR is for people who want answers, because now it's our turn.
If you have just joined us, you're listening to the Changing Consciousness show with me, Brian Branche, and Ruth Kritzer as co-presenter. And you're listening on www.criticalmassradio.co.uk. It's a radio station on air which tries to give as many opinions as possible, both critical, helpful, supportive. So it's a station worth listening to. And nothing seems to run smoothly in life. I don't know about you, but it doesn't for me. There's always ups and downs. There's moments of success, moments of disappointments. Don't like those bits. And sometimes maybe we set ourselves unrealistic expectations, goals we might not reach. But it's not bad to set those kind of high goals. Because, but when we don't meet those, we encounter disappointment, which could make us depressed, angry with life, with ourselves, with others. It may also prove to be something quite positive, as it may help us to look for an alternative way of doing things, with the results of more clarity, helping us to relax, refocus, and change directions. That's why we've been looking this evening at the aspects of conflict, compromise, and solutions. What we're suggesting here is that solutions are a lot better than compromise, because when we compromise, we don't really get what we want. But if we look for solutions, hopefully, maybe we can come out just like, yes, it was quite an easy description or symbolic one to give of the orange, where somebody wanted the orange peel to make a cake and the other just wanted the orange for the juice or the flesh of the orange. That's easy. But it's a starting point. That it may take a lot more hard work to actually get a solution where you may have something which is to do with the environment, to do with paedophiles, to do with a whole range of things. But as long as we keep talking, and this, while we're on that subject, this is what came to me. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again.
And the version we're going to play to you is by Frank Sinatra. But if you want the real zing about this song, I suggest you go to YouTube and Google for that song, or I'll just put that on YouTube, and it will come to the most wonderful version and video by Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. But here's Frank Sinatra with the same one. Hello, we're back again. And if you have just joined us, you are listening to Critical Mass Radio.co.uk, and this is the Changing Consciousness Show with Brian Branche, the Austin Vicar as presenter, and me, Ruth, as a co-presenter. The last two words before the last bit of music, which I hope you enjoyed, were change direction. Change direction. Well, there's a lot of changes of direction in everybody's life. For instance, when you graduate from school and go on to university or wherever you go, that certainly marks a change in your life. You leave home, you have to fend for yourself, pass entrance exams, organize yourself. It's an exciting time in life, but it is a period of major change and maybe a period of turmoil as well. We have an interview coming up with a young man who is now in his third term at university, and he will tell us how he feels about his life.
You know, maybe it was very relaxed for us, maybe in the United Kingdom or in Germany in the past, because we were the only persons maybe in the world who was able to make very high quality products with high quality. But now you see that maybe other people can do it better and maybe for a better price, and we have to maybe change our views of life that the Western world, or maybe people from Western world, that we are maybe the main culture in the world.
So are you saying that in your view that there is a change taking place within the cultural understanding between Europe and China, or?
Yeah, maybe cultural change will be there, but not now. Maybe in 50 years something. So now there is the economic change, but you know, cultural change takes very long. So maybe now Chinese people, they really like the Western society. Maybe they like maybe products like McDonald's or something. They all want to learn English. But maybe in a few years, when China gets more important, then they will realize that they don't maybe have to do that. Maybe they will experience their own culture, and maybe our or maybe my children, maybe they will learn Chinese at school. I don't know. It could be.
Okay. And do you see this as an identity? What I mean by that is that as you were growing up, you discover who you are by the things you do, and you then create an identity.
Yeah.
And then you have an identity which gives you the confidence to be who you are expressing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm picking up from what you're saying that as China now is maybe learning to be conscious of its own identity.
Of course, yes.
Because it's also had a very important identity in the past, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago, when perhaps in Europe we were more primitive in our understanding. The Chinese had a mathematic system and they had an empire.
Yeah, and they invented a lot of things, like maybe schießpulver, what's that?
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder, yes. So a lot of people think that maybe the Western world invented that, but that's very old, that's from China, and so, yes.
So as we in Europe now, part of what you hinted, we think we are the ones with all the knowledge and
yes.
we have the prestige, but that shift may be transferred back to China at some stage.
Yeah, of course. So maybe you have the German Johannes Gutenberg, and people say that he's the one who invented the book printing system. But you know, in Korea there was a sort of that system too. I don't know exactly who invented that, but they had a lot of things there in Asia too. But people maybe don't realize that. Yeah, and so. Maybe it is good for ourselves here in Europe or in America to see, okay, we are not the only persons in the world. There are other people and they have maybe great ideas. So, you know, we have to open us, because in the last maybe few years, the Chinese very looked about us. They maybe they were interested about Western culture. But now maybe we have to open up a little bit and see, okay, there are very interesting countries there around the world and we can learn from other nations too. Yeah, that would be very cool.
Okay, well that was Philip telling us about the up-and-coming Chinese economy, and that they were an empire well before England ever thought of its outreach. Maybe we were still painting our faces and living in caves then. So Philip will introduce himself in this next clip, but there was him giving us some form of introduction as to how young people are thinking. That and maybe we should be pleased that there are young people who are thinking ahead and thinking of the environment, thinking of the world, thinking of the economy, and hopefully in a different and more productive way. We are going to have a break with music now. Did you want to come say anything before we did that?
Well, it's going to be a piece of music that has to do with water, and I chose it because Philip happens to live in Constance, which is on Lake Constance, the largest inland lake we have in Germany. The largest part of it is Germany, but there's also Austria and Switzerland that have a bit of it. So as there is no music about Lake Constance, I chose the Moldau by Ruth, or at least a piece of it, because all of it would be far too long, but it's nice and calming, and you could just imagine a river flowing.
Yeah, I'm 23 years old, and I'm studying here at the University of Constance Business Economics since 2011.
What made you choose business and economics?
You know, before that I made a training at a bank, so that course perfect fits to that, and I really like that, and I like the subjects. I like the different themes about that course. So it really makes me happy to study that, and that's very interesting to talk with people about that subject. Yeah.
How do you see you using this gifting when you get to work within the wider world?
I will use that, my skills maybe I learned at university to change, maybe not the thing is I don't want to maybe earn a lot of money, but I want to have the skills to change something. Yeah, I want to change my environment around me. Maybe in a company, maybe in an organization. I don't know now exactly, but maybe that's a long time. So I'm in the second semester now, and it will take a long time. First I will do my bachelor and then maybe my master. I'm not sure about that.
Money is not your main object then?
Not my main object, no. I think that maybe you should have enough money to maybe pay your bills, but it doesn't matter if you maybe earn 4,000 euros or 5 or something. That doesn't matter, no.
Okay. Are you happy with the business system that you, as you see it now at your age?
Do you mean the business system in Germany or maybe in the US, or what exactly?
Okay, well, let's talk about Germany first, and then we have to link it, because Germany is part of the European community. European community is part of the global community.
Yeah, so I really like the German business system, because on the one hand you have the maybe capitalism, but on the other hand you have the state who really maybe collects a lot of taxes and give it to the poor people. So I really like that system. So maybe that's not the same maybe in the USA or in other countries. So maybe it's a very fair system in Germany, and I like that.
Are you saying to me that the German Parliament, the German authorities, are conscious that they need to, in order to create a balanced, unified society, that money that is invested or made from the rich needs to be to help the poor to live at a substantial level?
Yes, of course. So we have different parties in Germany, and I think all of that parties, they are maybe a little bit more social, like maybe the English parties or in the American parties. So all of them want to have it maybe very balanced. Some want a little bit more capitalism, some a little bit less so. But maybe Germany is very balanced in my opinion.
Okay. I see you've got here a book on your shelf, because I'm in your study, in your room, Three Kingdoms. Now, you did say you hadn't read it, but just give me the gist of it. So that's a very old book of I don't know what person from China, and so the first sentence is long divided must unite, long divided must unite, long united must divide. And so I find the book very interesting, because for a few years, or maybe since a few years, I'm interested into Chinese and Chinese economic system, because that will be a new challenge for us here, maybe in the Western world, maybe in Europe, to handle with that.
Right, well, just having a little break ourselves this end as we're catching up with things, and we're going to listen to the last part of Philip in a minute, but maybe we've got some music.
Yes, we do have some music, and maybe we also have some new listeners. I can see I was watching the little globe that we have hit some all over the world tonight, from Canada and British Columbia, that is. And welcome to everybody who's just joined us. We are listening to various interviews with people who tell us about how they deal with life, how they deal with compromise and conflict, what possible solutions there are, and how they deal with life in general. So the next piece of music is fairly lively, I think, because Johannes Brahms, Hungarian Dance, number 5, I believe.
Okay, well, that was Brahms, and now we're going to listen to Philip again. This is the last part of his interview. Philip's a young student at the university at Constance, and let's go back and hear what he has to conclude with now. So this is Philip Kritzer, part 3.
So maybe the political system in Germany or maybe in the UK, maybe it doesn't matter because when China is growing, it doesn't matter if there is an economy like Great Britain or not, because they are so big, it really doesn't matter. And maybe we cannot change that. Maybe we shouldn't change that because, in my opinion, the Chinese people, they have the same rights like we have to have success, and we have to maybe face that problems globally. We have to invent maybe new technologies who can solve that problems maybe with carbon dioxide, because of climate change. But really, we have to realize maybe that we are too small nations to maybe have such an impact. Maybe USA has to handle that, or maybe the whole European Union. And that's very important for me that the European Union is getting stronger, because we have only maybe one chance here in Europe when we speak together. The UK belongs to Europe. Maybe that would be great for me when sometimes maybe the UK will join the euro. It's not easy now. We have the credit crunch now, but maybe when you see it maybe in 10 years or something, I'm sure that the euro will exist there, and maybe some days the people from the UK, they will join us, and we will speak with one voice, and then we can be maybe heard.
One of the things I continually hear while I'm in Germany, and even when I was around Portugal and speaking with young people, is that they trust that the euro is still going to be around here, because it has to be an economy in the market, in the world market. So, us who are in the British Isles, when we think we don't want to be part of Europe, I'm not sure how well that goes. I may have to engage with young people on the streets in Manchester, Bolton, and other places to say that, we can't sit on the fence. We have to be part of Europe. And if we are to compete with places like China, India, the United States, even I think the United States may be a second or third class player in the China and the India that's developing. Do you want to say anything?
Well, if you forgive me speaking as a European, as a continental European, I was wondering at some point what the notion of Europe really means to British people. Does it just mean being sort of dragged across the channel into some dusty European office to be governed from a government that's far away, called the European government? Well, I can assure you that is a feeling shared by many people living on the continent, because Brussels seems so far away and nobody knows the people who are there. So this feeling of being remote from where the laws are made is mutual. And also I think there are many people in continental Europe and elsewhere who do not realize how many of the laws that are made and that apply to us all are made in Brussels. even today as we speak. But in terms of a feeling, I think it's fair to say that if you were to ask young people on the street in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Spain, Portugal, maybe even Greece, and other countries of continental Europe, they might say, yes, I feel like a German, but I also feel like a European. I can go everywhere. I can go and live in France, go and live in Italy, go and live in England. I was just wondering, does the young generation in England feel the same? Or do they still feel just a slight bit more insular? No insult. I was just wondering about that.
Okay, well, there isn't an answer.
No.
I wish there were, but that's part of life. That's part of compromise. That's part of conflict. That's part of working for solutions. We can't get out of it. That's part of living. We're always going to be in conflict, no matter what we do, because as soon as we are engaged with other people, we have to surrender. Sometimes, I don't mean surrender in being a slave or anything else like that, but we have to have respect for one another. Well, we're going to now listen to, before we listen to Gloria Gaynor, I Am What I Am, we'll have the mission statement from CMR.
CMR Critical Mass Radio is a completely non-profit station where the hosts pay to broadcast their shows. The mission of the station is to get as much information as possible out to people about the world we live in, to unite like-minded people, and to try to come up with workable solutions. If you agree with the work that we are doing, then please feel free to help us continue by making a donation on the webpage. CMR is for people who want answers, because now it is our turn.
Well, as usual, I try to get as much variety of music as I can on the show to give us a different kind of beat, a rhythm, to lift us up, to help us to kind of calm down. And my next interview, I conducted that in Austria. It was a hotel which turned out to be owned by an Indian person. After living in Austria for many years, he wanted to give back something to the community which he grew up in. It must have been a fairly poor community, and he wanted to share some of his wealth.
Which is amazing. Not many people seem to do that, but there are a few outstanding examples. Think Warren Buffett, think Bill and Melinda Gates. And it would appear, if the media are to be believed, that they felt they had so much. I mean, once you get to several billion, you simply can't spend that money anymore because no matter what you do, it just keeps multiplying. But they had second thoughts about it and thought they might share some of this wealth with the general public. This Indian fellow we met was running this hotel where we stayed in because I was working in the vicinity, and we just got talking. When it was an evening where his restaurant was basically closed, but then we talked to him and he said yes, we'll make some Indian food for us, which was very generous. And Brian and he got talking about his plans of starting a hospital, I think back at the community where he originally came from.
Yes, so I find it quite easy to engage with people, maybe because I like listening to them. They get excited to tell their story, and here's the story he told me.
My name is Yashavanta Mahanta. This is an Indian name, so people call me also here. Yaso is easy to pronounce. So Yashavanta Mahanta is my full name. Yeah, I'm basically from India and Assam, where tea comes from. So I'm living in Austria for the last 22 years.
You have ideas of building a hospital?
Yes. It's I'm basically from a country or state Assam, which is still to infrastructure to develop in India. Although the India is growing now economically, there are many parts of India still in a bad situation, and in case of infrastructure. So I belongs to a place where people are still not having proper road and proper medical situation and all education institutes. So this is my social commitment. So I am here in Austria with God's grace. I am established here properly. I have my family here, and I am doing this business since last 7 years. So I feel myself to do something for my people. So I am starting building a hospital in my place in Assam in India, which will be 40-bedded hospital, and we are planning to open it coming November.
It's a real privilege to hear that, because you could be, as a businessman, you look a successful businessman with the property you have here, and it's good to see someone who is not just interested in making money for themselves, but prepared to give back to the community.
Nice, thanks. That is the reason behind, because especially what I feel when I especially go back to India, when I compare to West Europe, these countries, what is happening in developing countries, these are all people are concentrating in big cities. So the rural is remaining like rural, and that is getting worse because people are moving towards cities, and the cultivation is our main route. People are not doing the cultivation, but very, very hard work. They like to have easy money, they like to have an easy job in an office than working in a field for a whole day. So which is a big, I think it's a bad thing happening in all those developing countries, because our root, our tradition, our culture belongs to the villages. It is very important to villages to develop. So I always feel the people like us who can little bit afford, who has reached certain level of standard of living, people like me or others all over the world, the Indians, and there are many Indian people, the business, not even the business, and even the people from academic side or doctors, they are also trying to do certain things and putting examples, all those interior places and villages, to do something for their own people directly to help. And so this is not it's a profit-making concern. Okay, it's very important. Even NGO nowadays in the world, to survive, you have to have a profit. Otherwise, you cannot survive, because all related to the finance. So what I am doing now, because I am building this hospital, the main objective is I am connecting with Geneva World Health Organization. I have already spoken to the Doctors Without Borders. It's called like Arts ohne Grenze, which is also based in Austria. In Salzburg is the main headquarters. There are big doctors. They go to all over the world, especially.
Well, that was Yashovanta, and as you gathered, he actually is doing quite a lot of work in his hometown. I'm going to pass you back to Ruth now, because we're going to introduce our last person who's on the program.
Yes, we decided to cut Yashovanta a bit short, apologies to him if he's listening, in favour of the last interview, which was conducted here at the place where I live, Gemerschein, in the southern Palatinate. And it's about a chap who recently opened a shop that is selling wine from the region exclusively, not only wine, but also spirits and champagne and chocolate and marmalade, jam, mustard is also those delicacies in a sense. The remarkable thing about him is that he used to work in the automotive industry, and then must have decided that he wanted to follow his heart and work in the area that has always meant a lot to him, and that's wine. He knows a lot about wine, so he travels around to the different wine estates and gets what he wants and sells it off to local restaurants and events, etc., etc. This interview is going to be in German, part of it being translated as they speak, part not. I suggest to just listen to it and take in the atmosphere.
My name is Dirk Heirat. I want to live in Zeiskam, and Wiener is 2 years old, Gemerschein. Ich mag den Job, es sind lauter Pfälzer Weine hier, Pfälzer Spezialitäten, wie zum Beispiel Essige aus dem Doktorenhof, selbstgemachter Senf, Liköre und Schnäpse, Brände, Weine, Sekte, Schokolade, Pralines. Man bekommt hier also alles Schöne zum Verschenken für sich selber. Bin eigentlich sehr zufrieden hier mit dem Standpunkt Gemerschein. Muss noch ein bisschen geduldig sein. Habe auch eine eigene Homepage www.vinocastel.de, wo man online bestellen kann, und mache sehr gerne Weinproben, Veranstaltungen mit Vereinen, wo ich dann den Wein anliefere auch. Oder eine private Weinprobe hier bei mir mit 20 bis 25 Leute. Eine Festungsführung 2 bis 3 Mal im Jahr. Eine sehr schöne mit einer Weinprobe mit einer Theatergruppe, die heißt Orange Maus. Ja, also es ist, wenn es eine Festungsführung ist, das ist dann in Fronte Beckers in Germersheim in der Festung, wird dann eine Eröffnung, dann wird alles schön dekoriert, das ist dann im Gewölbekeller, ein schönes Ambiente wird gemacht. Die Leute werden dann, es gibt dann eine Führung, wo gemacht wird, die geht circa eine Dreiviertelstunde, wo dann alles erzählt wird über die Festung selber. Und danach die Weinprobe. Gibt es dann am Anfang immer ein Sekt oder ein Prosecco. Später dann fangen wir mit dem Weißwein meistens an, 7, 8 Stück, und hören mit dem Rotwein auf.
And what is this wine you have given us to taste? It's a very good wine, white wine.
Der Wein wird getestet bei mir überwiegend bei Winzern, wo ich mir ausgesucht habe, oder ich bin jedes Jahr auf der Pro Wein, das ist die größte Weinmesse der Welt in Düsseldorf. Da wird auch sehr viel probiert, weil da kommen die weißen Weine dann raus vom letzten Jahr, und so sammle ich mir dann meine Weine.
He's always at the vineyards when the new wines come out, and on that world's most famous wine mass, Pro Wine, where the new wines are presented. And so he has the newest wines in his catalog and in his shop that you can get. And he knows all the vineyards he gets the wine from personally. So he knows who did the wine, how he did it, and what's in it, in the cuvées, and how they're created. That makes the shop very special. No, the shop is new. Dirk brought it to Germersheim to say there was no such wine shop in Germersheim. And Dirk was the one who brought it here and invented the shop concept for Germersheim. So you can go to the shop and taste the wines with Dirk, who tells you everything you need to know about the wines you like or you buy them, and you can get all the wines over the internet.
What gave you the idea to come here?
Wie bist du auf die Idee gekommen?
Wein war schon immer ein großes Hobby von mir, seit 20 Jahren, und ich bin damals mit jemandem, wo ich auch gut kenne, in Rölsheim, und in Wellheim hat er auch einen kleinen Weinhandel. Wir sind viel zu den Winzern gefahren und haben probiert und haben auch in etwa den gleichen Geschmack gehabt. Und so hat er mich mitgenommen dann auf die Pro Wein, das erste Mal 2001. Und ich habe dann die Möglichkeit gehabt, ich habe vorher bei einer großen Autobranche gearbeitet, 26,5 Jahre habe ich gearbeitet, dass ich mich dann auch selbstständig machen konnte. Meine Frau steht auch zu 100% hinten dran. Und Ja, und ich habe dann praktisch mein Hobby zu meinem Beruf machen können. Da bin ich auch sehr glücklich drüber.
After working in the automobile branch in a big firm for over 26 years, and after having wine as a hobby and tasting it in all the vineyards with a good friend who owns a shop in a town nearby, the idea grew up to make a shop on his own. So Dick decided after being to that pro wine mass in 2001 at first time to be a shop owner himself, and the idea grew and grew, and then he opened his shop up 2 years ago. And his wife is with him, and she supports him in every way that's needed, and he feels good.
Well, folks around the world, it's come to that time again when time actually runs out. We've got just over 9 minutes left for the show. It's time for me to say good night. And I hope you are going to have a nice restful weekend. It's coming up to midnight. And all I can say is, may your God go with you. May the wind be on your back, or a gentle breeze with a lovely sun on your face, that it shows your smile.
Yes, and may the road rise to meet you, and may you also be able to enjoy this time of autumn and upcoming winter with the hours of light getting shorter, the dark moving in, but still keep up the spirit. And we're going to conclude tonight with a quiet but also nice piece of classical music. It is by 1A Marcello, and it's called Oboe Concerto in D minor, and it will take us until 12 o'clock. Good night, everybody, and see you again.